And we are live. Hey, everybody, it's John Robinson with another episode of Tuesday Talks Live, real estate conversation coming to you live stream every Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So good to have you guys here with us today. If you are a regular, you know the drill. I'd like to see where you're watching from, where you're listening from. So give us a little comment, drop us in something that lets us know that, first of all, that you can hear us and see us. So just drop something in the comments, let us know that you can hear us and see us, and that also, if you don't mind, let us know where you're from. I have a pretty big group it's funny, it's growing in popularity, getting a lot of interaction down in the Pensacola market. So kind of interesting, have a whole lifetime history ago down in Pensacola. I used to build houses down there on the beach. Did a lot of high-end construction work down on some of the restaurants and the boardwalk type of places down there. So Pensacola, Destin, Florida, Fort Walton Beach, did a lot of work down there while I was studying for ministry. And that was during the downturn crisis era. But I have a pretty good established base of investors down there too. So if you guys don't know that, now you know. If you're ever looking for properties in the Gulf Coast, Northwest Gulf Coast area, feel free to check out the Pensacola Off-Market Properties Group. We got about 6,500 people there. So we're starting to get some of those folks, even though we're all kind of West Coast people. We're starting to see people trickling in from there. So yes, okay. Peggy says you can hear and see me. Ted's watching us from Beaverton, says he can see us and hear us on YouTube. Perfect. Thanks, Ted. If you guys are watching on Instagram, I know that you cannot see your comments, or I cannot see your comments right here on the Instagram. For some reason, StreamYard doesn't actually tie it in, but I'll be checking back and forth there as we get going. I've got a really, really special program for today. I'm going to be bringing her on in just a few minutes, but I've got a friend of mine from the Portland area, and someone who's not just Portland specific, in the sense that she's got a lot of information that she can bring to people anywhere in the country, really anywhere in the world, but I guess anywhere in the country, U.S. would be kind of her target market niche. But she works in the midterm rental market. We're going to be hearing from her in just a few minutes. Going to bring her on. Hopefully this all works. Not something I do normally, but if it goes well, then we'll look forward to doing a little bit more of it. But the reason why we wanted to bring Shona on today is really because she's got some great information, not just about midterm rentals, but really specifically about insurance, housing, how all that works. So we'll be bringing her up in just a minute. But just so you guys know, as we go through this episode today, first of all, we always want to try to wrap up at the top of the next hour at the latest. So we're going to go ahead and try to get this squeezed into a timely manner, because I know you guys are here with us live on Tuesdays. It's right in the middle of your workday. Hopefully this brings a little pep in your step. All you real estate entrepreneurs and junkies out there, we'd love to be able to try to give you a little bit of a pick-me-up. Bring something that's interesting, something that's kind of interactive. And to that point, if you can, I love actually seeing your comments. I love to be able to pull your comments up and post them on the group as we're going through here live. So if you have a comment, if you have a question, please feel free to ask. Don't worry about, well, I'm going to wait to the end of the show. I mean, just go ahead and throw it out there, and then I'll go scan through the comments, and we'll be bringing your stuff up, throwing it up on the screen as we go. And if you have a question for my guests, then feel free to ask. And some of those we might wait to the end, but we want to make sure you guys at least know you can ask questions. That's the whole point of this episode. These shows is get in here, ask some questions, and then hopefully get your questions answered live by the experts that are here on the show. So yes, I do consider myself to be a little bit of an expert in some things. If you guys want to know chapter or verse of the Bible somewhere, I'd be happy to show it to you. If you want to talk about real estate, creative financing, I'd be happy to talk about that. If you want to talk about car engines, not an expert there. Don't ask me. You're going to have to go to a different show for that. But when it comes to real estate, creative real estate investing, entrepreneurialism, it's just something that we like to talk about here. So Tuesday Talks live, you guys are here. It's real estate conversation. So, hey, Peggy says, hello, Shona. I don't know if she can see you already or not, but with that being said, Peggy kind of kind of already, she gave us a little bit of a spoiler there, but we've got Shona Lepis on the episode here today with us. I'm going to see if I can add Shona to the stage and bring her on. Shona, can you hear me? Can we hear you? Let's see if make sure you're unmuted. Unmute your mic. Can you hear us, Shona? Okay, I see your lips moving, but we don't see you talking. We can't hear you talking yet, unless you guys let us know. Let's see. So I think on we've got video, but I don't know that we have audio yet. Shona, can you? No, we can't hear you yet. So we have to keep on trying. We'll let her keep trying on that. I don't think it's muted on my end. So I think it might be something maybe with your headphones or something like that. How about that, Shona? Give us a try now. No, still not getting you. Okay, while Shona's working on that, we'll give her a chance to kind of jump on. And yeah, not working. Well, that's technology these days. So we can see you, but we cannot hear you. So unless I'm missing it, you guys let me know in the comments. Can you hear Shona? Can you hear her? Can you hear us? It's like those old, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, there we go. Now it's working. Okay. Can't hear Shona. Okay, Ted says can't hear you, Shona. I don't know if maybe you on your computer, if maybe just make sure you're actually connected. He says he can hear me, but he can't hear Shona. So Shona, on your end, I don't see us. I don't see your. Hold on. Did we get something? Try now, Shona. Nope. Still got nothing. Well, shoot. Okay, edit mic. I'm looking at a little bit real quickly here. Checking.
You can't hear me?
Now we can. I don't know what just happened, but we can hear you now.
So
hey, we got it.
Bad cell phone connection. Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Well, we're glad that we got you. Shona Lepis, welcome to Tuesday Talks. It's real estate conversation every Tuesday with John Robinson. You and I know each other pretty well. In fact, you've had me on your She's Got Assets program, I think twice you've interviewed me for different episodes. So Shona Lepis, welcome to today's broadcast, and thanks for being here with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. I love this. I am a local investor in Portland, Oregon. Love real estate for all the reasons we all love it. I've kind of found myself in the midterm niche, like love to talk about it. Kind of checks a lot of boxes for me, cash flow, great guests. So yeah, that's something I love to talk about. But that's
real quickly, because we're gonna keep this conversational, Shona. Whenever you say midterm, that's the niche you found yourself in. Tell our guests, people that are watching today, viewers, what exactly does that mean in your mind? What does a midterm model rental look like?
So just to kind of go from the basics, right? In rentals, we have like a long term, which is the vanilla, right? Standard rental. Then we have short term, which is like typically a couple nights, kind of the Airbnb model. We have co-living too, but then in the middle of like long term and short term, we call it midterm, or it's monthly rentals is the common name now, but it's essentially a fully furnished property. But it's for a 3 to 6 month stay. So we're not dealing with that nightly churn. We're not dealing with high maintenance guests. We have a decent bookings, right? Very high occupancy. So it's great cash flow. It's often 2x over long term, but without all the headaches of the just guests are high maintenance, right? They're on vacation. They want, pickleball courts and vacation vibes, right?
Yeah. So you're definitely not in that co-living space where you're dealing with nightly rentals or really, really short term. You're really kind of in that happy medium. So the advantage you would have is you have the revenue that's generated that's higher above and beyond. You said 2x is somewhat of a typical number. So that's above and beyond your typical long-term rent. So let's say we can get $1,600 a month out of a property on a month-to-month, 12-month contract, lock it in, sign the 1-year lease, and then they have a chance to renew. Well, you're saying you could probably get anywhere from $3,000 to $3,200 a month on a midterm model. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, and there's a lot of nuance, like the style of property, right? Like how many beds, bath, like any niche, right? I would say the really juicy numbers are in larger homes, right? And it's typically, we think of single family, like we're all after this multifamily, which is great. But to me, there's a real niche. And if you like, a lot of times, if you have a single family and it's like, it's not performing well, your cash flow kind of sucks, you can really move the needle with going to a midterm model.
Very cool. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. So, do you have an ideal? And I know we're talking about insurance here in just a minute, but just so people kind of get the lay of the land with the midterm model, do you have kind of an ideal, um, property that works really well for you as a midterm?
Yeah, like, so I think all properties work, and I think people often think of like traveling nurses. That's where everyone thinks like, oh, it's next to a hospital. I'm like, that's okay, and that works. But for like the insurance model that we'll get into, it's really a single family home, kind of a 3-2, kind of your average American home, right? 3-2. Other things that are really in demand are a fenced backyard, single level, no stairs, kind of basic amenities like a washer dryer, dedicated desk space, things like that. That's very in demand, or even larger properties. So I would say at least a 3-2 is really ideal for the
Okay.
insurance model.
So, for instance, right now I have a property I'm working on. I've got just about got everything done. We have new flooring, new paint, new lighting. It's looking really good. I've thought about, I kicked around the idea of doing a short-term model, but as you mentioned, when you're dealing with short-term guests, you kind of have that whole vacation vibe thing going on. Really, somebody said this one time and it just clicked with me because I've done short-term. They said when you're dealing with short-term, this is your Verbo, your Airbnb folks, what they want is they want an experience, and you're basically a hospitality service, right? If you're not getting that 5-star review, then it's really and you kind of have to bend over backwards. So I've done it. I could do it. I don't want to do it. You're telling me that this midterm model, maybe particularly for insurance housing, might be a really good play. This is a 5-bedroom house plus an office plus a bonus room above the garage. So, kind of just your typical house. It's not like anything super special, but it's definitely a nice home. It's about 6 years old. What would I need to do to set something like that up? Or maybe what we're doing is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Maybe I should back up and say, how did you go from, first of all, how did you settle into the midterm model? Just real briefly. And then how did you go from midterm model into insurance housing? How do those two connect?
Yeah, so I mean, just way back, right? I grew up in the vacation rental business in a small town, so it's kind of, I think it's in my blood a little bit. But I'm from California, very expensive. I moved to Oregon. I'm like, at the time it was affordable, so I started buying real estate slowly, and then very traditionally, right, the whole 20% down thing, and then I did a course, right? And Airbnb was kind of all the rage. We had a few Airbnbs, and it was fun to like play host and, like you said, have the hospitality thing. And but then the novelty really wore off, and I got a couple longer bookings, and I was like, oh, well, this is really nice, right? I'm just kind of changing the model, and so I kind of, that's how I evolved into it. And it's also, in my mind, it's also serving a need in the community of like people that need a place to land, right? So it was like an evolution from long term to Airbnb to the midterm. And then I started, if you get in the space, you go down the rabbit hole, and I started hearing about insurance. And then, I also love that we're helping families, and insurance has deep pockets, right? So it's a real evolution. And not every property is right for insurance. So I think we often hear it and we get excited, but we also don't want to focus on just one avatar either, right?
Yeah.
So
It's funny you mentioned about, you had a couple of longer bookings. I had a really great little 2-bedroom place over in the Tanasbourne area. And when they were rolling out the 5G upgrades all out the Portland area, I had a lady come up from Texas, and she was basically the head of the 5G rollout for AT&T. And she booked my place through Airbnb for I think 3 months, and I was just like, no turnovers for 3 months. I did have cleaners come in and just clean it once a month, just because I like that anyway. But it just, what you just said just reminded me, like, oh yeah, that was really nice. There was no cleanings other than just once a month. That money kept rolling in, so Yeah, you're making me think maybe I should get into this insurance housing midterm model with this house I've got here in Idaho. Of course, Shona, I'm in Idaho these days, and so we're over here based in the Boise area. So tell us a little bit about, you said you kind of went down the rabbit hole. You got into some insurance housing. What was, do you remember what your first insurance booking was, or did you go looking for it, or did it come finding you? Like what how did that actually happen?
I think I started doing my research and I realized that when the way you position a listing is very different than short term, we're talking about longer term stays that we cater to insurance. So I started kind of learning how to optimize listing to get more of those leads and then how it works. And it's there's a lot of parties involved that I can talk about. So I just kind of learned how to submit properties and what makes something more likely to be approved. And as you get more leads, you start realizing what people are looking for. I mean, I can tell you like certain amenities are very much in demand. So yeah, it was just kind of as I went along, I started really learning what makes a good midterm and how to kind of negotiate those deals and stuff. Because it's a little bit it's in sales, right? We're kind of in sales and
Yeah.
hospitality, but yeah.
Yeah. So when you say, what makes a good property, and how to submit that, you're really talking, I'm assuming you're talking about now with not only the tenant themselves, but you're also dealing with the person who is how does that work? Is there someone else that's making that booking on the behalf of the tenant? Are you talking about in submitting to insurance companies?
So there's all kinds of flavors, but here's like a traditional case study, right? A family in this market, it's always water damage. It's like typically it's like the dishwasher wasn't installed correctly, which has made me very paranoid to that
Yeah.
dishwasher. Just like
Yeah.
so, a family has some kind of a disaster, something floods, they typically will call their insurance agent, and their insurance agent or they file a claim. They're not in the housing business, right? They've got their hands full, so they will typically match the family with a temporary housing company, like something like ALE Solutions, Sedgwick, that might be familiar to some people, and they're kind of temporary housing like experts, right? And so once they have that family, they will go out and look for housing, and they will typically, if you're in the right places, right, if you're optimized, will say, hey, I saw your listing, I have a family, 3 adults, 2 cats, a lizard, because these are homeowners, they're not like renters. They have odd pets, like they have pianos, they have quirky things. So they will reach out and say, like, is this available and can you send a proposal, right? And that proposal is typically your monthly rent. It's your cleaning fee, it's your deposit, your application fee. And one really big caveat with insurance, if anyone doesn't know it, is that these families were not planning on moving. Their homeowners. They don't have like money set aside for a deposit.
Mm,
So we're typically saying the deposit, you want to keep it under 2K
mm.
because it can be a hardship, and typically it's an out-of-pocket expense, right? So that's one really big tip. And then if we go with a lower deposit, I'm typically increasing my other fees, like I'm charging a higher pet rent, a pet fee. So I'm kind of compensating for the lower deposit to mitigate the risk, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Real quick on that.
Mhm.
The deposit is going to be covered by the person that's paying for the insurance, and then the insurance covers the rest.
Yeah, so it's typically out of pocket. Sometimes insurance will cover it. So there's a lot of nuance to it, but it's typically out of pocket for the family. So when you submit your proposal, but they'll cover all the other fees, right? And so when you submit your proposal, you're trying, so what happens is the temporary housing asks for that information, and they'll ask you all the questions, right? And then they go back to the adjuster. The adjuster needs to initially approve that budget, and then the family typically will see the property. Sometimes it's sight unseen, but typically they want to see it. And so there's just a lot of approvals, and then if they approve it, then all the paperwork is done and they can move in.
Nice. Okay. So you don't necessarily go, unless I missed something, you don't necessarily go looking for these temporary housing agencies. They come find you based on your listing, or no, is that wrong?
So there's a mix, right? Like they have databases. You can like use Chat GPT or like Google and say, give me all the top temporary housing companies. They have databases that you definitely want to submit yourself into. But I think I suspect they're kind of a mess. So they're often going out to like Airbnb and Furnish Finder and Verbo and booking that way. But you want to be in all the places, right? Because
Okay.
sometimes bookings come directly, and then we're building relationships with the temporary housing people. That's why I put all these leads out there. I'm always like, hey, if I don't have a place, I have a network. We all have networks, right?
Right.
And you're trying to serve them so that they know you as the person to come back to when you're adding value. And so, but yeah, they have databases, and then it's relationships and making sure your listing is really dialed in for kind of the insurance type of leads.
Okay. So with your post, and by the way, the whole reason this came about is because you did make a great post, and if you guys aren't in the PDX REI group and you're in Portland, you definitely need to be there. So, but Shona's in there. She's a regular contributor. She's making posts in there. Peggy says I call Shona all the time, and so there you go. You have a great friend in Peggy. Big fan there. So with the post that you made, you said something along the lines, Shona, of you're gonna maybe put together some information for people to know, like what you said. One of the things you said was what info helps you evaluate it quickly. So tell us a little bit about that. Like what info helps you evaluate what? How does that all work?
So what I'm looking for, right, is budget. And sometimes I get that, and sometimes they're cagey about it because I don't want you. They say their budget's 7K. They don't want you saying, well, my rent's 7K, right? So sometimes they'll give you that. Sometimes they won't. They're typically giving you beds and baths and any like criteria like accessibility is a big thing. Like, are there any stairs at the entrance? Is there a bedroom on the main level, right? Like things like that. That's a big thing that I'm kind of like, does it even fit? And also with insurance, like it's a family and they probably have kids in school and they have a job. So they're often really looking to stay within a certain zip code or close to the home that was damaged. Not always, but typically. So I might say I need a 3-2 budget 7K, but if it's the opposite side of town, that family often does not want to, they want to be very close by that property, typically, right? Not always. And the other thing is, and this is confusing for people, insurance often will be like, well, we're just approving a month, right? And so if I'm going to do a month lease, there's a premium for that. So I don't want to send them the Furnish Finder listing with the price because we may be negotiating a price that's a little higher to kind of compensate for that extra flexibility. So I'm looking for like a Google Drive link for photos, which is like very like people get hung up on that, but that's why I'm doing that because I don't want them seeing a different price than we're maybe going to submit because of the length of stay, and we're kind of getting a premium for that flexibility, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're saying you kind of have everything organized in such a way. I'm assuming at some point you get organized where you have your, if you're in conversation with these insurance agencies and you have almost like a different profile or a different packet of information that you send them, as far as pricing and things like that is concerned, then rather than just sending them your latest listing on Verbo or Furnish Finders.
And here, okay, the other big, I'm really glad we're going down this rabbit hole because the other thing is like Zillow gives you the address, and don't be afraid to put your address out there. Everyone's weird about it. I think it's fine. Furnish Finder and Airbnb, they don't put the address out there. So it's like
Hmm.
not super helpful. They want to go into a map and be like, how far is it from A to B? So if I'm like, hey, I found this great property and here's the listing, there's no address, which is they're very busy. They need all the information that they can just hit submit to the adjuster. And if I'm sending them an Airbnb link that doesn't include like all the fees, it's kind of, we want to give them this really nice package with the address and photos. Does that make sense? That's the
Yeah,
other
no, that
reason.
I would
Yeah.
have never thought about that, but that's actually a really great point. So you're trying to get this kind of you're trying to take your product and your pricing and drop it in this nice little package with a little bow on it to where it's a no-brainer for the person who's making the booking or at least submitting it to their client.
Mhm.
That's what I'm getting from you. So
Yeah. Mhm.
who all we have two parties involved so far. Well, three if you count yourself as the owner, the landlord. Then you've got the tenant, right? The resident, the insured, and then you have this other party, the insurance company. Is there a particular thing? Are they like what are those people called? Are they the adjuster? Who are those people?
So the three parties are, yeah, there's the adjuster from insurance, and they're always notoriously slow. And I mean, sometimes they move fast, but there's the adjuster. There's typically a temporary housing provider like ALE Solutions, and then there's the family. Typically, sometimes a family reaches out directly, and if and here's something to look out for: if a family says like damage to my home, I'm always asking questions. Hey, are you working with a temporary housing provider? Because families have not been through this. They often don't know their budget. So if it's that kind of thing, I'm really like, I can work directly with temporary housing. Like, I'm always asking questions, but typically the families are overwhelmed. They're not hunting out. And the other thing is the temporary housing companies actually cover the cost. If a family reaches out directly with, and then they're going back to their adjuster, they have to front the cost, which
Mhm.
could be a hardship, right? So typically the temporary housing comes to you to get a proposal. The adjuster has to approve it, and we're trying to make it like, really easy for them to approve. And then once it's approved, the temporary housing company goes back to the family and says, hey, family, here's a couple options. Let us know what you think. That's already been approved, because these families have budgets, right, that they're approved for, and they need to make sure that that budget, can last a few months, because there's typically extensions.
Mm.
So they don't want to show a family like, hey, look at this beautiful property, but you don't have the budget for it. Then that's just, disappointing and not
Yeah.
really productive. So
Do you
there's
you
like
may not know
three
the answer.
parties.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you may not know the answer to this, Shona, but maybe you do because your experience with it. Is is there how do they determine what the budget is? I mean, is it based on the amount of damage? Is it based on the length of time? Like how do you know anything about that?
It's a really good question. And so, yeah, so everyone has home insurance, right? We all have it. I never look at it except when I'm doing like a loan or something. It's like,
Right.
send me your deck page. If you go and you look at your homeowner's policy, there's something called ALE, stands for additional living expenses. And that is your budget for the year. And so that's what insurance is looking at. And so as a family, you can go look at that. And it's typically like 20% of the home value, give or take.
Okay.
It's not, it's like, it's not a hard number, but so knowing that if someone's coming from the fancy neighborhood and it's a 3-2 and their home value is like, I don't know, 600,000, we can kind of do the reverse math. But also, if someone is coming you directly and insurance is like giving them flack, you can say, go look at your coverage, and honestly just load it into ChatGPT and say, what's my ALE, right? We don't have to think anymore. It's like all the tools we have. But it's in your policy, and they're looking for something that's going to, like, if it's water, it's typically a couple months. They're looking for something that would, the budget will last them. If it's fire, those are great claims. Like, I feel but we're looking at like a year, right? So they're
Mm.
going to be like, okay, this budget has to last them a long time, and so we don't want to put them in a property that's, their budget will run out. But it's in their deck page. Like, everyone knows it, and people don't often know that, so they can advocate for like, well, because adjusters are looking out for insurance, right? So they don't always share that information with families.
One thing you said, and I just want to make sure again, we're trying to provide as much value as possible in this short time we have. What does ALE stand for? Do you know?
Additional living expenses.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And then
Mhm.
as you were talking, it kind of made me think about, you've got, let's just say you have the family, they get this option, from their insurance provider. Hey, here's a couple of options. The family comes and looks. Do you have interaction with the family at that time? Are you really working with the family primarily at any point, or is it mostly through the insurance company, or is there a normal?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so once you've submitted your proposal, adjuster is approved. Typically, the temporary housing company will say, "Okay, I'm going to give the family your information." You get a call and you say, "Hey, I'm going to give you a tour," and that's where you kind of go. You should. I mean, we're not always doing in-person tours, but if we are, we're talking to the family and we're saying like, "Hey, we're kind of building rapport, and we're saying, if there's anything you need at the property, do you need a crib? Do you need an extra like desk in here?" And you really try and figure out what they need to help them be really comfortable, because they all won't always ask you for that, right? So we're really trying to be very accommodating, right? And like, because it's not hard to get a desk, or sometimes people want like beds moved out of a bedroom, but they're not going to ask you because they think it's a hassle, right? So we're like, what are you looking for? Is there anything extra? And then we're always saying like, please, we've had a lot of interest. We could have no leads. We always say we've had a lot of interest. And you could get a lead any minute. You say, please go
Sure.
back to your adjuster, your temporary housing company, let them know you're very interested because we can't guarantee it'll be available. So we really need to coach them on like a bit of urgency because again, like things can move really quickly and they need to kind of bug their adjusters because they are notoriously slow. And then, so you really want to let the families know if you're interested, like please reach out to your adjuster, let them know. And then I follow up and do my thing. But the families, if you can coach them on letting their adjuster, because they don't know housing,
Yeah.
they're not used to renting. They're just like kind of in the thick of this, just having gone through a major catastrophe, right?
Yeah.
So
No, that's so true. That's so true. I'm looking at Ted says, I love this conversation. Midterm rentals and insurance housing has been an interest to me and gets me thinking from time to time. So, Ted, thanks for being here. Thanks for the comment. Peggy says she always charges more for short-term renters. I think he's alluding to that when if they only want 1 month. Um, when you talk about making adjustments in the house, um, I can imagine, not being the devil's advocate, but I can imagine somebody sitting here going, okay, so, I've got this house, I've got it set up for, short term or midterm, and now I'm going to start moving mattresses around or getting going and getting additional furniture. I guess the question, is it worth it, Shona? Like, you have these bookings, you have these interested parties. Do you have to put the property on your other listings? Do you kind of put it on pause? Do you not let it get booked, or do you really just let it go and just whichever one comes in first, or how do you do it?
I I'm always available. That's why I get all these leads because I call it bait, right? So, like, I typically have open calendars. No, insurance leads are finicky. Like, you may have a lead. There's so many variables. I would never hold the property for someone unless I'm like really sure. But until that lease is signed, there's no guarantees. And that's why we're coaching families of like, hey, if you're interested, like we can't hold this. And a lot of times you get inquiries and they don't pan out because they're showing multiple properties. So
Right.
a lead is a lead until the lease is signed, right? Like that's just, and so that's kind of like, it might sound great. The family might like it. They might end up staying in I mean, sometimes they end up staying in a hotel, right? Because there's all these amenities and they don't even want a home, right? Or they stay with family. So that's the thing. We just never know. And when it goes fast, it's like it can be like 24 hours and sometimes you never hear back. It's just kind of this gamut of and as far as furniture, like I mean, I had one property I was co-hosting and the rent was like 9,000 a month and they wanted some beds moved. And I'm like, for $9,000 a month, we'll put them in the garage, right? Like, and you
Yeah.
have to like weigh the how long is the lease? And also, I just feel like these families have been through a lot, so it's kind of the right thing to do. But I'm not
Sure.
like, it's typically like moving a bed out or maybe adding a desk. It's not like, hey, I want to add a hot tub or something that's just kind of beyond, right? It's very much like, I have a baby. I want a room empty for the crib so the baby can, it's things like that that are
Yeah.
pretty reasonable. Or
Yeah.
adding a crib. It's not anything that's I don't think it's super, and you don't have to agree, you don't have to accommodate that, but to me, it's kind of part of the business, and if you get the booking and they're gonna extend, it's well worth it.
Yeah. No, I'm in fact, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm going, man. It really, if you think about it, it's another lead source or option out there that if you can accommodate it, it can be very, very lucrative. I'm assuming you probably get once you have that established relationship with the adjuster, with the insurance company. Do you get repeat leads come in from those bookings that you've made before, like from the insurance company? Like, oh wait, that was it. We worked with Shona before. Let's see if she has anything available. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so it's not so much the adjusters, it can be, it's more the temporary housing companies, so you wanna be really easy to work with, be really flexible, like, if I make a proposal and they're like, okay, can we, adjust the cleaning fee or the pet fee? Like it's a relationship business. And if you, overcharge and you're difficult, they're not going to come back to you. But I always say I have a great network in Portland and nationwide because we do. So I get leads for like random places and I'm always just trying to be a resource. And I always say that because they don't know that. And here's the thing, the other thing that people they are often calling longtime old crunchy landlords that are like, why would I why would I rent a place for less than 12 months? Like, why would I do that? They don't understand it. So they're typically really happy to know that we understand the process and that we're like open to it, and they're not having to like educate us on like why we would sign a shorter lease. So I'm always just very like try and be helpful and you know,
Yeah.
just
Uh,
that's the kind of thing, right?
there's a major difference, like you said, between the kind of the older mindset landlord, typical 12-month long lease landlord, and what you're doing. But the difference is not just in the level of service; it's also in the level of income that you can generate on a property. So I
Mhm.
want to go to a question here. Let's see. Andy says. He says, "Are you able to do arbitrage with these? So, like Airbnb to insurance." So, I'm assuming maybe he's talking about and Andy, sometimes your questions I'm not quite sure. So if I get it wrong, then just feel free to make another post. But I'm assuming basically he's saying like can you rent a house? Can you personally go rent an Airbnb booking that you find online, and then turn around and use that as like a sublease to your insurance people? That sounds like it might be a little bit complicated, but it's a question that got asked. So, Shona, do you have any thoughts on that? Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, I love that question. And I just want to say, I don't like traditional arbitrage. It's very risky. And to me, you don't get all the benefits of real estate. But there's a term that's called reverse arbitrage or lead matching. And it's exactly, I'm assuming this is what they're asking. If I get a lead on a property and it's a 3-2 and it's booked, and I'm like, mine is booked, but I go out and find another property, I can lease that and then sublease it to the family, right? So I'm only leasing it for the terms the family wants, and then I'm possibly furnishing it. Or a lot of these leads will it can be unfurnished, right? And we're still charging a premium, not the furnished premium, but 100%. And that's the model a lot of people do. They'll lead match to a property for the exact term of the lease, so that it's mitigating that risk. We're helping the family out, and we're getting the delta between like maybe the long-term rent is 3,000, right? And we're getting it for 5K or something, right? That's a pretty good spread, right? So 100%, that's a model a lot of people actually really focus on.
Nice, nice. Okay, thank you. That. Yeah, I just learned something. I wouldn't have really thought about that, but Andy, thanks for bringing that up. Ted says my brother-in-law water damage was in a rental for 6 months. The company had an empty house. They had a super detailed process to find out what furnishings he wanted in the house. Okay, cool. Then they set it all up in a couple of hours, down to the kitchen towels, silverware, and laundry. That's actually, Ted, thanks for bringing that up. I was going to ask you, Shona, when with these houses, these are pretty much move-in ready. Is that how you typically run yours?
They're kind of like an Airbnb. You're just staying for a while, and like there are certain amenities, and sometimes people want a certain thing. But again, it's like, it's we're stocking it with essentials like, toilet paper for a week, paper towels, trash bags, kind of the essentials. But unlike Airbnb, we're not restocking that. And sometimes people need something particular, and we try and accommodate. But mostly these are people that like they've been displaced. They're dealing with insurance. They're really frazzled. They have pets. Like, can you imagine like pets in a hotel room, teenagers? They can't
Hmm.
cook, and they're just looking for something that's clean, comfortable. I think it should be well designed, right?
Yeah.
Thoughtful, but it's not high end, right? We don't need the latest finishes. But yeah, and sometimes people are. So I think that what that experience could have been a temporary housing company reaching out, booking an unfurnished place, and there's companies that will furnish very quickly, and they have like packages. But ours are all kind of ready to go,
Yeah.
just like an Airbnb. Yeah.
Nice. So if someone wanted to get into this type of a model, Shona, and first of all, I just want to say thanks again. You guys, if you're getting value from this, let's see some comments. Let's see, yes, no, maybe so. You guys give Shona some love in the comments if you guys are actually getting value out of this today. So while we're waiting to see if that anything comes in there, Shona, um, we talked about briefly about possibility of having you come in and speak at an upcoming PDX REI group meetup. It looks like that might be something that people want. Ted says more, please. So if you were able to come out sometime and speak on the third Thursday, is that something you'd be willing to do and really kind of just take questions from the floor, Shona?
Yeah, I love that. It's yeah, my favorite topic. So happy to be a resource. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm sure somebody's probably watching this now, or maybe they're going to watch the replay, but they're probably sitting there thinking to themselves, okay, I've got a rental property. How do I get started in this whole midterm model? Where do I even start? Can you speak to that? I know you have a course that you offer. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, if there's no secrets to it, it's all out there. I do have a course. I coach students. I really hold their hand through the whole process because there is a lot of nuance to it. So it's, how to furnish it, how to market it, how to operate it, how to self-manage. And I'm really there for people. And because I think if you haven't been a landlord, there's a lot of fear and a lot of nuance. That's one option, right? I'm a coach for you. I'm keeping you accountable. We're getting your listings live. And a lot of times I work with students and they're like, maybe they had a flip that wasn't selling or they had a lot of vacancy and we're positioning it the right way. And we're actually getting it booked before it's even furnished, which is my favorite thing to do. It's like, we do not want to invest in a bunch of furniture and staging without having that lead. So that's my favorite thing when I'm working with students. But yeah, I have a group. Anyone's welcome to join that. And I will just leave this one tip, like John, for your property, what I would do is virtually stage it right, make it look pretty, put it on Furnish Finder, Airbnb and Verbo and Zillow, and then just put that bay out there. And if you get a lead, you're like, no problem, I can furnish it, right? I mean, that's a great, but then you're not spending 20K plus
Right.
on furnishing it. And then you could even go long term, right? Like I'm doing that now with the property. I have a long term and a midterm, and I'm going to see what pans out. So that's my favorite way to kind of test the market because it is an investment. And once you furnish something, you don't want to go back typically. So
Right. No, that's 100%. Now, you mentioned something about a minute ago about, people having flips. And I know there was actually quite a few of those where coming out of that 2023, 2024, people that were in the middle of doing flips. I know even in 2025, I knew several people that I talked to, flippers, traditional flippers that were sitting on properties because the market cooled off, interest rates were high, valuations didn't continue to just keep going up, up, up like they had. So that's a really great idea. Some of these people might look into refinancing and just keeping it. But Andy had another good question. He says, what's the typical vacancy? And I'm assuming between bookings, and what's the longest that a property sat vacant? Does it pan out financially on an annual basis, right? So we hear about, oh man, double the money, but really, if you think about, you mentioned costs. I know a couple of the properties that I furnish fully, $15,000 to $20,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is not hard to do, especially if you're getting all brand new furniture. I know some people that really, in fact, you're probably one of them. I know you like to shop around and get the best deals wherever you can. But if I just go, I got a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms. I got to get so many beds, so much furniture, just go Costco or Amazon and get it. It can easily be $20,000. So does it actually pan out? What are your thoughts on that when you look at your numbers?
yeah, so the first thing I want to call out, I think, is like every model is going to have some kind of vacancy. There's no model where there's zero vacancy, right? And I think we kind of forget that. Like I have long terms and they're pretty booked, but there's going to be vacancy, right? And then midterm, yes, there's a little bit more vacancy, but you're getting such a premium that I think it really compensates for that. And I would, when you're underwriting, plan on 20 to 25%, of unoccupiedness, that there are ways to mitigate that, right? If you can run the hybrid model and you can short term those gaps, that's what a lot of people do. If you're in that kind of a market, that's a great way to mitigate it. The other, right. And I think when you look at your numbers, you're getting such a premium, it's really compensating for that vacancy. And the other thing is, if you're in a market like Portland, where our landlord tenant laws are just really painful, you're really navigating around that because you're only having people in for a few months. So you actually keep control of your property. Because if you get someone in your rental that stays for over a year, you don't have a lot of rights anymore. So, there's other, I think, maybe intangibles to this model if you are in a market like ours that I think are something that when you're weighing the scale, right? So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, really, the way you started out was really what people need to remember. There's no model out there where there's never a vacancy. That's just, even with short-term rentals in a great, location, good reviews, 5-star, all that stuff, Superhost, you're still going to have vacancies, cancellations last minute, and now you didn't have it booked. So it's a good point. Now, when you talk about a hybrid model, maybe give everybody a little bit of an idea. Like, what do you mean by that? Is that where are you specifically trying to do something to bridge between those two? Are you talking about a hybrid between short term and midterm, or midterm and long term?
Yeah, so what I mean by that, if you're in a market that lets you do short term, right? Like I personally can't do that. I may have moved to new for properties at some point, but I'm not new. I moved out. If you can do that, right? So what you're doing is, if you're a lot of people kind of are looking at the model, like you kind of gravitate towards one. If you're like, I really want to focus on midterms, so I'm going to optimize my listing for midterms. I'm going to put all the right keywords in. I'm going to do all the marketing right. But what you can do is, say you have someone move out, like it's February 10th, and you get someone on March 1st, right? You can short term that gap, right? And there's ways to do it with dynamic pricing, where you're kind of locking your calendar in. So if you're running that model, you're only taking short term reservations for like within a month, right? You're not peppering your calendar out in the summer with a bunch of short terms, right? So you're filling in your midterm gaps with short term reservations, if that makes sense. But you have to be really strategic about it. And then if you could even get like a midterm booking and then strategically cancel a short term, but you're really focusing on midterm, or maybe it's seasonal. Maybe you kill it with short term because of tourist season, but
Hmm.
you get, and your slower seasons, you're optimizing for snowbirds, right? So you have to be intentional, but that's a way to mitigate the vacancy that we all hate as investors, right? I hate
Yeah.
vacancy. I love, occupied cash flow and things.
Yep. That's why
But
you
I
bought it,
mean,
right?
right. But I think if you are in a market, you can do that. That it's a really, if I could, I would. That way you're like filling in those gaps, and then you're getting that, like the long leases and the longer stays, but you're also getting the cash flow in between things. You just, please do not take a reservation in summer that's going to screw up the potential booking, right? So you just have to have faith you will get booked. Because a lot of times people make these really wide gaps, and then you're just kind of like trying to fill them in. So
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's like everything else. You kind of have to learn, your market, get strategic, find the nuances, and probably you could speak better to this than I could, but probably that even gets that's a macro view, but on a micro level, that's even true probably for each particular property, right? You might have a listing over in one part of town that just seems to really do well at certain times, maybe because there's a festival or there's something going on there. So I think you're probably fast becoming, if not already established, as the Portland area expert when it comes to midterm rentals. And you said, so you're kind of helping, coaching and doing consulting and co-hosting for people all over the country, or tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so I do some selective co-hosting. It has to be the right kind of property. It's typically larger because I want there to be, enough margin to make it worth it, right? And then I coach people. I have a program called the MTR Playbook, where I'm really walking through, market analysis, setup, and then marketing and operations. And it's about self-management and how to list your property. And because people, maybe they haven't been a landlord, or there's so many pieces to this. There's leases, there's furnishing, there's marketing, there's negotiating, and I'm really there for you to hold your hand and walk you through it if that's what you need. And I love doing that, and all over the country. I'm in Portland, but this model works everywhere. I mean, I would say you want to be in a larger market, but it works everywhere, and there's definitely demand for it. So yeah.
Yeah, so that actually probably answers this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Andy says again, is there a way or a website to see where there's more potential, as in which area location has none or less competition for those insurance rentals? For example, target finding a town without these kind. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's probably, I mean, there's probably a demand for this type of housing in every place where people have insurance coverage, right? Do you see what he's trying to say? Is like, is there a way to kind of figure out where there might be a real heavy demand for something, or there's just not a lot of established places available yet, or have you figured that out?
So that's always like my favorite way to test demand is to put up a listing, right? And then just check it. But there are, insurance, there's no public data, right? And we can't predict insurance claims, that we can predict demand. It has to be pretty urban. Furnish Finder slash stats is a great place. They really share all their data, and they will show you what the demand looks like, what the search is, what the availability is. That's one way to do it. I came up with a chat GT prompt to kind of test it. I think the other way is just to talk to other operators, go to meetups, like PDX REI. Is there demand? Because data's great, but insurance leads us specifically. We just know if we're in an urban market and there's homeowners, there's going to be claims, but they're not exactly sharing that information, and there's no like aggregate for that. But it's not just insurance, right? It's digital nomads, it's traveling nurses, it's families that are moving to Portland or wherever, and they want to check out a neighborhood and they don't want to do a 12-month lease, right? So anyone kind of in transition. So we're never solely focused on insurance. There's different kinds of avatars, and there's always, like, if anyone's an agent, right, you probably have clients that they sold a house and they haven't bought their next house. Like, where do they go? They don't want to live in a hotel. Or they're listing a house and they don't want to have people tromping through it, right? Like, there's so many scenarios where people want furnished properties in
Yeah.
transition, right?
Okay. Now that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And you've got your course. I'm going to go ahead and take you off for a second, Shona, so you can grab, if you don't mind, maybe grab that PDF file, because I couldn't find it in my email. So I'm going to give you a chance to go look for that real quickly. While I've got Shona off there, and she can jump back on in just a minute, but Shona is a great resource, you guys, if you don't know it, in the Portland market, especially. And that's where most of our viewing audience is located. And Tyrone, obviously, you're getting some value out of this. Peggy says always great value. And Shona is really, really good at just kind of just, not just knowing what she's talking about, also being someone who is willing to share that. And that's one of the things that I love it. Yeah, Peggy says she's been with us many times at the PDX REI group meetups. Marina said, "Hey, Shona, John, go Shona Lepis." We agree. Marina, good to see you too. Thanks for being on here today. But the main thing, the reason I wanted to post that out there, just kind of give you guys that heads up about her being a local resource, is you want to be mindful of the fact that not only has she been someone who is willing to share the information, but she's also someone who has taken the time. Which, if you guys have never done this, I just want to tell you right now, it's no small feat to take the time and put together an actual course where you have case studies, you have step by step the process. And I would really, really encourage you guys, if you're even thinking about it at all, make the investment. I know I personally did. Whenever Shona first rolled out with her course, I bought it because I just, first of all, wanted to support her. And secondly, I wanted to take advantage of having that fast track for getting this information. So this is, by the way, Shona's not giving me any kickbacks or anything like that. I just think it's really, really a great value. And I appreciate someone who will take the time, put that course together. So if you guys are thinking about it, check out their course. Shona, where can people find more information about you, about the opportunities they have to work with you? Where can people find that?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, John. Thank you. You can just go to she'sgotassets.com, and I have all my courses there. You can book a call, and you can just do a free consult, see if it's a good fit. Like, if it's not a good fit, I'm not going to steer you in the wrong direction. But, I think there's a lot of strategies in this business, and you can borrow like my 10,000 hours and just kind of get booked and get the whole recipe for this model, if it makes sense to you.
Put myself back on there. So with the website, she's got assets.com. Obviously, there people can find information about you. You mentioned something too about a PDF with you're always looking. I mean, you're a real estate investor, so you're always looking for deals. Where can people, like, if they find something, they're like, you know what, this might work for Shona. How can people get that information to you?
Yeah, you can just message me, and if you're buying a property, I think it just I think like every property has a different exit, and knowing what's good for this model is helpful to know. So if you just want to comment, I can share the PDF. My email was being janky, but yeah, I think just knowing when you're looking at a property, like what's the best use for it. Is it co-living? Is it a short term? Is it a midterm? Because I think we get caught up in like one strategy, and sometimes properties are, we want to use the best strategy for that property. So knowing what like the perfect midterm, if that's helpful, I'm happy to share that.
Yeah. Yeah. Shona, I really appreciate you being on here with us today. And you and I are going to get together. Guys, we've talked about, and I dropped the ball on this just because I have these ideas, and then it's so, I don't know, Shona, you're probably like me. We're like, serial entrepreneurs. You just can't help yourself. But Shona and I have talked about working together, collaborating on a monthly newsletter that we send out specifically for the Portland market. So I still have that on the back burner, something I'm still working on, and I think we might even be able to get Caitlin Beals in on that. She's the lady flipper out there in the Portland market, and so. But Shona, thank you for coming out. Thank you for taking the time today. You guys, if you got value out of this, give her some love in the comments. Again, I know that that she's she's most of you guys know Shona. Shona knows several of you, but let her see in the comments if you want to get a copy of that PDF that she has, kind of her buy box, then say, buy box, or say, hey, Shona, something like that, so she can go back and check out the comments and get that out to you. So, Shona, appreciate it. Any last words, anything parting as we go in our separate ways and get back to work today?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, if anyone has questions, like I'm happy to be there. And this is a fun conversation, so thank you. Thanks for having
Awesome.
me
Well, I'm
on.
glad to be able to have the chance to have be on the interviewing side, because like you said, you've done two with me, and I always had a blast. You did a great job. By the way, are you still pumping out some podcasts?
Yeah, I'm not as consistent, but I'm always looking. I get pitched all the time, but I really like keeping it local. So if anyone wants to be on it, I'm always looking for good guests that are, kind of local and doing creative things. And so, yeah.
Love it. Okay, so you guys just
Yeah.
heard it. If you know somebody local to the Portland market that would be a good fit for Shona to interview on her podcast, I always had a good time with her. And so, Shona, looking forward to having you at the PDX REI Group meetup. Are you going to be at Pace Morby's meetup coming up here in a couple days?
Yeah, any chance. He's so
Yeah,
inspirational. Yeah, great
yeah,
community.
that's
Yeah, I'll
awesome.
be there.
Yeah, I know. I was actually going to try to be there. I just not going to be able to make it. I got too much going on here in Idaho, but I'll be at the meetup here in Boise a couple days after you guys. So.
Oh,
Okay, Shona,
very
appreciate
cool.
you.
Thanks
God
so
bless.
much.
Take
All
care. We'll
right.
see you soon. Guys, if you guys got value out of that, make sure you comment. Let Shona know. I've seen a couple comments coming in. Buy box, buy. You guys this is value, right? This is great information. It's a great resource. You have so many people around you that are doing this stuff. There's no reason to sit on the sidelines. There's no reason to be hesitant. Just, one of the things I learned from Shona, I'll just share this real quickly with you guys before we wrap it up. I never had or heard the concept of basically, digitally staging your property before you put it out to market. And whenever I heard the first time I heard her say that, I was like, of course, that's genius, and that may or may not have been her original idea, but it was original to me whenever I heard it from Shona. So I love, being around other people that are actually in the business doing the work, and appreciate Shona being on here. If you guys got a value out of that, let her know, right? Reach out, follow her on her socials. Make sure you go out to her website. She's got assets. I think I posted it up above. And let her know if you want to get that buy box information, because you might have her next best deal and she's a buyer. So, okay, everybody, appreciate you. Look at that. We're done. Just a minute over time. So we wrapped things up. We try to get these things done, get in, get out, get back to work. Hopefully it was valuable to you guys. If it was, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so that you get notified, and we'll see you on the next one. God bless, guys. Take care.